Good afternoon. This is Dr. McDaniel at GYN Corner. Oops, I forgot the lighting, so 1 second. I'm a board certified obstetrician gynecologist in New York City, Midtown Manhattan. That's better. And I'm bringing to you all things health related for women. Today is Thursday, September 19th, so we're one step closer to the weekend. I hope everyone's had an enjoyable week. And I believe it's all of last week, I spoke about different stages of puberty. There's the pre-pubertal stage, which is the menarche. That's the kickoff stage to set everything in motion for puberty. And then there is pubarche, which is the manifestation of body hair. And there is thelarche, which is the beginning of breast development, breast buds. And within 2 to 3 years from thelarche, the onset of breast development, is menarche, which is the first menstrual cycle. In between those two pubertal stages, there is a growth spurt. Most girls will gain around 3 to 4 inches. Obviously depending on genetics, during that growth spurt, that pre-menses or pre-menarchal growth spurt. And with the onset of menses and the increased levels of estrogen, which we think of as the female hormones, estrogen, which promotes breast development, breast maturity, and allows for the menses to start. So with the onset of the menstrual cycles, because of the high estrogen levels that ensue, most girls will not grow after 1 to 2 years after the onset of their menstrual cycles. So whatever height that young child or young girl, young lady is when she first gets her menstrual cycle, on average she'll gain maybe 1 to 2 inches after the onset of her menstrual cycle, because the hormone estrogen is responsible for closing in the growth plates on our long bones, so arms and legs and such. So because of the hormones with the onset of the menstrual cycle, most girls will only gain another 2 inches on average after they start getting their menstrual cycles. Now, I spoke yesterday more in depth about menarche, the onset of the menstrual cycle, and in brief, the menstrual cycle has been slowly decreasing as far as the age of onset goes for the last 200 to 300 years that we have on record. Around the 17 to 1800s, the average age was 17 to 18 years old. Around the 1900s, the average age was 14 to 15 years old. And now the late 1900s, 2000s, it's 12 to 13 years old. Predominantly around 12 to 12 and a half years old is the average age. There are multiple factors that influence when that young girl will start her menstrual cycle. The largest factor is genetics. Whatever age her mother went through her menarche or start getting her menstrual cycles is when that daughter will usually get her menstrual cycles. 65 to 75% of the onset of menses is due to genetics. After that, it's environmental factors or cofactors. So after that, it's nutrition. So we call it different categories: socioeconomic, nutritional status, percent body fat, body mass index. Those are all kind of culminating from the same source, which is how well nourished is she? Does her body know that she's in 21st century, access to lots of foods for the most part, good health? Or does her body think she's starving? Does she have a low body fat percentile similar to a boy or a young man? In general, if a young girl is poorly nourished, undernourished, she's not getting enough protein. We all know proteins are the building blocks for our body. If she's not getting enough protein, especially animal protein, because I said it yesterday, teleologically, but man is a carnivore. Nowadays, people choose not to be carnivores, but our bodies were made to be carnivores. So our body likes animal proteins as opposed to non-animal proteins. And women are always supposed to have at least a certain amount of body fat, because if we get pregnant, we should be able to support our own health and a baby's health. and any activity or any status that decreases nutrition and decreases body fat to extreme levels for a woman is going to delay the onset of the menstrual cycle. Now, I spoke about yesterday having a menstrual cycle that starts too early or a menstrual cycle that starts too late. Too early, we call it premature or precocious puberty, and too late, we call it late onset. One of the factors I wanted to mention today as far as precocious puberty is that there are certain environmental factors and chemicals that can potentially skew or cause an aberration in our hormones and what we see in the body through our hormones, and they can start the onset of puberty early. So precocious puberty or too early is under 8 years old for girls. So the average age is 12. The range is 9 years old to 16 years old. So 8 years old and under is considered too young. And let's see, one of the factors that's really important is what we call an endocrine disrupting chemical. Sorry, I'm looking down because I'm trying to answer a message from the front desk. An endocrine disrupting chemical, and there are certain synthetic chemicals, especially in plastics, that can potentially spur or increase the development of the pubertal stages, so it can cause an early puberty or precocious puberty or premature puberty. Two of such chemicals are, and I'm going to read these ones, the phthalates, it's PHTHALATES, phthalates, and BPA, which is bisphenol A. Now, I remember when I was young, and the microwaves first came out. When the microwaves first came out, my parents said we weren't getting a microwave because my dad was like, they're going to find out 20 years from now microwaves are bad for your health and people are going to get cancer from the microwaves, because it was like Star Trek. We used to use oven, fire, or electricity, which we're used to, and then all of a sudden we're putting our food in a box. There's going to be some waves. We're going to open the box, and the food's going to be cooked or hot. So that was a big leap of faith to trust the government and the powers that be that was okay for our health. So I remember we didn't get a microwave. Until I was much, much older. I think the microwaves came out sometime when I was maybe 8 or 9. I think mid to late 70s. We didn't get a microwave till maybe the late 80s or so. But I do remember once we got the microwave, my dad was like, "Oh, you're not supposed to cook anything in plastic." That was the big thing. They said, don't put plastics in the microwave. Of course, for the last 40, 50, what is this, 2000, yeah, so 40 years or so now, everybody's been putting all plastics in the microwave. But he said, the instructions and everything, you're not supposed to put plastics in the microwave. And these are two of the reasons why we weren't supposed to put plastics in the microwave. People have forgotten those original instructions because we're all comfortable with microwaves now. So we heat plastics with food in them. And plastics, rigid cups, food storage containers, water bottles, a lot of them have the bisphenol A or the BPA and the phthalates, and these are synthetic chemicals which mimic some of our natural hormones, so that they can inhibit the development of those hormones and or they can alter the action of those hormones. So when they are producing plastics and food containers and such that have these chemicals in them, if we put them in the microwave with food in them and heat them up, those chemicals can leach into our foods and we can consume them. They can leach into foods in these plastics that are being microwaved, or even in beverages during heating and washing in the microwave, and they can falsely elevate or mimic hormones which will kick off the start of puberty stages, and they can cause precocious or early puberty for young children, young girls and boys. And we've seen children as young as 2 years old starting to get body hair, acne, and breast development, and as young as 4 and 5 years old getting their menstrual cycles. So that, of course, is horrible. So we do have to keep in mind that you have to read all of the, as I always say, the devil's in the details. You have to read all of the instructions and the information on products that we are putting our food in or taking for granted that are safe to use for consumption, because there's sometimes special caveats or catches to those instruments that we're using to contain or to cook our foods. So that's a big one for precocious puberty, and we do have treatments for precocious puberty. So if you think you see a young child or even a baby, it looks like they have body hair, underarm hair, genital hair, or looks like it's not just fat, it looks like their breasts are trying to grow and they're just a toddler, please do take that child to the pediatrician, because they can treat, they can stall, reverse, or even arrest that precocious or early pubertal stages that you've seen started. So I hope that's been helpful information on menarche, which is the final stage of the pubertal stages. This is Dr. McDaniel at GYN Corner. If you're in the tri-state area, please come on by the office. We're in Midtown Manhattan, just west of the Empire State Building. We're around the corner from Penn Station. 8 blocks down from Times Square. We see walk-ins every day. If you call in the morning, I usually have 2 hours during the day that I'll allow the girls to take walk-ins, women without appointments. So please do that, and then please check out the YouTube channel. It's also GYN Corner, and our podcast, GYN Corner, on all the major platforms for the podcast. And please click the subscribe and follow buttons. If you enjoy the content, you want to hear more, click those follow and subscribe buttons. You'll get a heads up on when the presentations are coming, what the topics are, and then please send questions, requests for topics. If you like the podcast, log in with the podcast, and on Apple iTunes, please leave a review. Leave it 5 stars if you enjoy listening to what I have to say and the topics, and let others know why you like GYN Corner, what you enjoy about it, so that they can have good information and a heads up and encouragement to also check out the GYN Corner. Thanks again for your time. Have a great rest of your Thursday. Bye.